Hi everybody, it's Kasia Dupuis from the NOTL Library. I'm here for this week's NOTL Live, Library Live Create with Kasia. So what we're going to be working on today is I'm going to be showing you how to make this beautiful and very popular Starry Night, inspired by a very famous artist named Vincent Van Gogh. Vincent Van Gogh was a very famous artist, and he often used dots, dashes, and swirls in his artwork to show movement and to show to make it look like the painting was alive. So that is what I'm going to show you today. So this is inspired by his Starry Night painting. It's not exactly a Starry Night painting. Obviously, I'm not Van Gogh. But we're going to do our version of Starry Night. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way here. Maybe it will stay in the frame of the camera. And what we're going to do now is go over the materials that you're going to need to create this painting. So first of all, you'll need a covered surface. So I have a big sheet of watercolor paper underneath to protect the table that I'm working on, because sometimes paint does not come off of things, and we want to make sure that it, you're not wrecking a table or a surface. Or don't paint on the carpet, don't paint on the couch, paint on somewhere you can protect. So it's a good choice. The other thing you're going to need is something to paint on. So I have a piece of watercolor paper right here. So I'm going to work on this. Make sure you're wearing paint clothes. So clothes you don't mind getting paint on for the same reasons as we cover our table, just to make sure that it's a good choice and you're not, going to wreck anything with paint if you accidentally get it on there. You're going to need water to wash your brush. You're going to need a paper towel to blot your brush after you wash it. And you're going to need brushes. So I have my trusty 3 here. I have my square flat brush, I have my square kind of bigger poofy brush that I use to do bigger spaces, and I have a finer point round brush, and we can use this one to make dots and dashes. You're also going to need something to draw with, so I have a pencil just for some quick sketching, and of course you're going to need some paint. So I have, I have white and black, I have blue, and I have green. Now I have 2 shades of green. That's what I have on hand. If you only have 1 shade of green, that's okay too. But I'm going to use 2. And then I have some yellow. And yellow is pretty important because yellow was actually one of Vincent Van Gogh's favorite colors, and it makes the moon and everything kind of glow. So we want to be able to use some yellow in this today. So I'm going to move this over here, and I'm going to grab my pencil, and let's get started. So the very first thing we have to do is make the horizon line. So I'm going to start down here. Oops, sorry, that was my headphone cord. We're going to start down here, and we're going to make a horizon line that's very low to the bottom of your page. Now notice how I'm making kind of like a rough line. I'm doing many different lines. I'm kind of going like this. Don't worry, you don't have to do a perfect, single line. If you want, you can, but I like to do multiples, and then within those lines, one of them is going to be the one that I'm going to go with. Yeah, it gives me some flexibility, and I get to choose which one I like the best. So we have our horizon line, so that magic line that creates the sky and the ground. Now on top of that line, let's draw some bushes. So we're going to do 2 bushes, just like in the painting there. In the original painting, the bushes are actually on this side, but I like doing them on this side. You can choose whatever side you want to put them on. But we're going to do 2. I'm going to do one bigger one. So it's just kind of like a teardrop shape, just like that. And then we do another little one that kind of overlaps. And it doesn't have to be perfectly exactly the same shape. I kind of like when they look like they're a little off, or one's pointing one way, one's pointing the other way. You can even do 3 if you like. And then the last thing we're going to do is make the moon. So you're going to make a big circle first. So just like that. And again, I'm making multiple layers so I can pick the one that I like the best. So it's the big moon, but we're going to do a crescent moon within this circle. So I'm going to take my pencil, and I'm going to make kind of a semicircle, just like that. And then I'm just going around the outside so I can follow my line, just like so. Yeah, so we made a crescent within the moon. So it's like someone took a bite out of it, right? And guess what? We are ready to paint. That is all the sketching we have to do. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our big brush, or whatever brush you have, and we're going to take a little bit of blue, and I'm going to move it here. Now I'm using watercolor paper, and I'm using acrylics on watercolor paper, so often I'll have to add a little bit more water in mine, just so that it doesn't just keep drying and drying and drying. So all you're going to do with the blue is paint the sky. So I like going around my moon first, just like this. And then working my way around. So see how I kind of took my time outlining where I wanted to outline, and then I can go like a little crazier. Yeah. Also, don't worry about this being really smooth or anything. We're going to be working with texture because Van Gogh liked dots, dashes, and swirls. So we're going to be adding those on top. So adding some more interesting lines and making it kind of rough and choppy will just make this painting look more interesting. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be perfectly, calm, smooth sky, because this sky is not calm at all. It's full of movement from all the dots and dashes. So don't worry if your background here, your sky, is a little choppy. It'll just make it awesome. Just like so. Yeah. And we're almost there. Just getting a little bit more paint and filling in that sky. Okay. Done. Okay, so you can wash your brush, blot it on your paper towel, and now we're actually going to do the ground. So I'm going to take one of my greens. I'm going to take this kind of darker green. I'm actually going to mix them both together for this, to be honest. There we go. And then I'm actually going to take a little bit of my blue, just a tiny little bit, just to bring the color down a little bit, because this blue is pretty deep, so it's going to make it darker. Not too much, just a little bit. And because it's just the ground, I want it to kind of fade into the background, so I'm going to take a little bit of a black and mix that in too. So it'll kind of make it look like shadowy. So it's like a dark green. And all you're going to do is paint underneath your trees and around your trees to cover the ground. Just like so. And again, it can be textured. So it's not supposed to be like a super smooth ground. Most grounds are not smooth, especially in nature. There's pebbles and rocks and grass and sticks and all these other things in the ground. And that's good. We're talking about texture today. Now, if you want to make it look extra dark, I'm going to take a little bit of black and just kind of blend that in. And see how if I go like this and put these blacks in, these black lines in horizontally, it looks like shadows, like the tree is casting some shadows here. Although they're on the wrong side because the shadows would be that way. But that's okay. It's art and we can make it however we want. Then you can wash your brush. And we're going to do our trees. So I'm going to make 2 darker shades of green for the trees. So I'm going to do this one first, and this one's going to be darker. So I'm going to take some green. You know what? I really like this green, so I'm going to mix it in. I'm going to take a little bit of that. I'm just going to mix until I get a color I like. Okay, remember you can add some blue in there. Just get a little bit in there like so. Okay, I'm kind of happy with that one. My brush is shedding. And then I'm going to paint this tree. Now, you know what? I'm noticing that's not as dark as I want it, so I'm just going to take a little bit of black, just a tiny bit, and mix it in. That's better. Okay. Now, since I will be adding dashes onto this tree, and those dashes are actually going to kind of go more vertical. Notice how I'm painting my tree. I'm not going this way. You can if you want, but I'm kind of staying within a line. So within an orientation. So I'm going up and down. My painting is more vertical for these trees. There we go. And then you know what? I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm going to use this color. Take a little bit more green, lighten it up. It'll be subtly lighter. And then I'm going to do this one here. Just like so. So these trees I'm noticing, I'm looking at my other painting, they're a lot lighter than my original that I made. And that's okay. I'll show you how we can darken these up if you really want them darker. Or if you know you want them darker, make a darker shade of green for the base coat, just like that. Okay, now we need to wash our brush. And we're going to go into some yellows. So to paint the moon, you're going to get some straight yellow. So whatever yellow you have, we want it to be very vibrant. So we're going to use this yellow, and we're just going to paint in the crescent moon here, just like so. A little clumpy. Go away, little clumpy. There we go. And just like so. Now take your time with those points. And you know what, if you accidentally make them too thick, go back with a smaller brush later and we can just define them a little bit. So we did the crescent moon there. I'm just going to take a little bit of white on my brush, make it a lighter yellow, just like so. And then I'm going to paint that in. And you know what, I'm actually going to even make that lighter than I thought, because it will kind of look like part of the moon is glowing. Oh, a little bit of green. That's okay. There we go. Okay. So that is base coated. So that means all the back layers, the basic layers, are all covered of our painting. Now it's time to do the fun stuff. We're going to add some dashes. So I'm going to use my big brush again. I know I just put it down, but you are going to wash it. And we're going to take some blue, move it to a new spot. And we're going to make a little bit of a darker blue. So it's like a denim blue. So I have some black. Don't take too much. And then mix it together to make like a darker version of this blue. You don't want it black. You just want it like to be a dark blue, obviously. And then what we're going to do is add some dashes. So dashes are little lines that go like this, right? So this is a line, and these are dashes. So what we're going to do is start making some dashes that make lines all the way around your painting. And Van Gogh loved dots, dashes, and swirls. So look, I'm going to make a swirl out of lines, just like that. So you're just going to fill this whole page with dashes, with dark blue dashes. Just like that. And this is just a background again. So don't worry if it's not perfect. Don't worry if some of your dashes like overlap or anything, or you're like, oh, I wish I didn't put that there. Don't worry. We can always fix that. Going to make a circle here, or a spiral. Just fill in some of that space there. And all my dashes are always having a curve to them, and they're always kind of following each other without being in a perfect line. And that creates movement, because see, you can see there's a swirl there. Your eye follows the lines that the swirls make and the dashes make. Okay, so let's go on to our next color. So we have a dark blue. I'm going to take some more blue here, move it to a new spot, take some white, make it a lighter blue. My blue is pretty strong. You might need more white, more or less white to make a color kind of like this. And then what we're going to do is go like this and follow. And it might be hard to see on camera. I'm not sure if you're able to see this color. But it's like a lighter blue. And we're just going to do dashes all the way around. There we go. Our sky. So, who was Van Gogh? Well, he was a very famous painter that made many paintings. He's one of the most famous painters ever. Most people know Starry Night and some of his sunflower paintings and iris paintings. But he wasn't very popular when he was alive making his paintings. He was alive a long time ago. But he didn't really have a very easy life. He didn't have a lot of money. There were a lot of kids in his family. He moved around a lot. He wasn't sure what he wanted to do when he grew up. He wanted to be an artist, but then that really didn't work out, even though, well, I'll get to the end of the story, even though we are still painting something that looks like one of his paintings. So we have this first color. Guess what? I'm going to take some more blue, mix it right in, take some more white, mix that in too, make a lighter version of the blue. And do the same thing. We're going to overlap some dashes, just like this, and make some swirls. So Van Gogh, he actually painted over 1,700 paintings, 1,700 paintings in his life. But he only sold one ever. People didn't really like his work. They liked the artwork of something called the Salon. And the Salon basically told people what they liked, right? So if you were an artist in the Salon, that meant you made paintings that were like smooth and beautiful and of only certain things, like of people or trees or landscapes or that kind of thing. Yeah, but the thing about the Salon is that all the paintings are very realistic and they had to look exactly like that thing that you were painting. Nowadays, we don't need to paint things exactly. We don't need to make things realistic because we have cameras to do that for us, right? Back then, they were just learning about cameras. I think they were just being developed. So you had to make stuff that looked exactly the way it was. But Van Gogh liked Japanese art with lots of color and lots of movement and lots of lines and bright colors. So that is what he put into his work, which was not, accepted at the Salon. So nobody really liked his work because it wasn't the right kind of work. It's kind of like an outcast. But yeah, one person did buy his work, and then he became very famous, unfortunately, after he passed away, which is like many artists. Oh, also, sorry, I jumped ahead a step because I was telling you about Van Gogh. I took some white, which is whatever little bit of blue was left over, and you're going to just start doing some dashes over your blue ones that are white ones, and they stand out a lot. They kind of look like stars. Ooh, Starry Night, we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay. And don't worry if some of your dashes get like a little bit messy. I'm noticing some of mine are, but you know what? I'm having fun with it. And it looks full of movement, this sky. Like lots of movement, lots of quick movement. Okay. So our sky is pretty much done. So we're going to let that dry, and we're going to work on the dashes that are in the trees so that the blue and the white can dry so we can put yellow on. Because what happens if we put yellow on top of a wet blue? It'll turn green. You can have green in your sky if you want, no problem. But I want to make sure that the yellows are very bright and strong. So we're going to add some dashes on here. So I'm going to take some of this green. I'm going to add a little bit of this yellow to make it a different shade of green. It's a little bit of a sharp green with the yellow, just like so. And in both trees, I'm going to make dashes, but I want these dashes to be vertical. Oh, and I see that you can't really see that very well on camera, so guess what? I'm going to lighten it up just so you guys can see. If you like the color of your green, and obviously I can't see it, but you're going to do some dashes that go straight up and down. If you like the color that you made, don't worry about changing it, because all of these colors work, right? So see how my dashes are more vertical? And they're not really in straight lines. They're kind of varying. So some are longer, some are shorter, some are wider, some are thicker, some are thinner. That's okay. So I did my first row of dashes there. Hopefully you'll be able to see that on there. And then you know what? I'm going to take a little bit more white and make some lighter ones, like so. And I'm going to do the same thing. Just adding dashes just as we go from the top to the bottom to make the trees look a little bit more fuller, but also to kind of marry into the idea of dots and dashes and swirls that we're making in our painting. Just like so. Okay. So now I'm going to wash my brush because we're going to go into some darker greens. And I'm going to take some of this dark green here. And you know what? I'm going to take some of this because this green kind of works with everything. And I'm going to do that thing I did before and take a little bit of blue. And just mix it in. Ooh, that was a lot of blue. Ooh, I kind of like it though. Yep, I like that. And I'm going to actually move a little bit of this over here. Because that's going to be my darkest. And I'm going to make this lighter. There we go. And I'm going to put some of these in. my dashes are still going up and down. They're going vertical. Just like so. Okay. Do this one here too. Perfect. Okay. Okay, and the last step, I'm going to take that dark green that I made. I'm just going to wash my brush so it doesn't turn into that other green. And you know what? I'm actually going to add even a little bit of dark here, a little bit of black. And maybe even a little bit more. Oh, that's really dark. Oh, I got too excited. There we go. I'll use that right in there. I love color mixing. Color mixing is very fun. There we go. So this is the final layer of the trees. Just adding in some dashes. Perfect. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing to the other tree. Also, what we're going to do next while we're waiting for the sky to dry a little bit more is we're going to put some dashes in the ground to make it look more harmonious to the painting as well. Okay, so there are my dashes in my tree, and I'm going to take some of this dark that I already have, and it's pretty dark. And all we're going to do is do some dashes this way. So this way was vertical, this way we're going to go horizontal, just like this. Just adding in some of those dashes there. Hopefully you can see it. If not, don't worry. All you have to do is do dashes that go horizontally underneath in the ground. Just like so. Perfect. Okay. Easy peasy step. Kind of brings everything together. All right. So our next step is actually we're going to go into the yellow. And this is the fun part. This is where we get to add the stars. Okay, so it should be dry. Let me see. Yep, okay, perfect. So we're going to start with some yellow. And my yellow has a bit of green in it now. That's okay. I'm going to move it to a new spot. And you know what, just to make it a little thicker, or a little bit more opaque, so less see-through, I'm going to add just a tiny little bit of white. I don't want to really change the color to make it lighter by too much. I just want to add a little bit in just like that. Then what we're going to do is take our yellow and do some swirls that go in the sky. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to make a line that turns into a swirl. Just like that. Okay, perfect. First one. Next one, I'm actually going to make a line that starts here and goes around the moon. And then I'm going to make a line that goes here and goes over top of that other kind of swirl there. There we go. And then you know what? I'm going to make one that kind of goes like this. Filling in that sky, just like so. And then we're going to go like this. And make one that goes here. And don't worry, this is only the first layer of some of these of this yellow. We're going to add in white and some lighter yellows to make them kind of glow. And I'm going to do one little star there. So inside all of these little round spots, these little swirls that we're making, we're going to put some stars. Okay, so we have our first layer of yellow. So take whatever you've got on your brush, take some more white, make a lighter version, enough so that it definitely looks different. There we go. Okay, so we've got more white in there. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to basically follow these lines without covering all your yellow. Okay, so the yellow that you originally did, if you don't like something, you can cover it, of course. But we're just kind of adding in and filling in to make it look even more movement is happening, but also to make it look shiny. Yellow is one of Vincent Van Gogh's favorite colors because it was happy. It was a happy color. It reminded him of sunshine. and, you know, happy things. A lot of his paintings, Vincent Van Gogh paintings, remember I said he made like 1,700 paintings? He made a lot. A lot of his paintings are really dark. He'll use dark colors and browns and greens and blacks. And he didn't really start painting with bright colors until he found, he discovered actually, that Japanese art that he saw in a marketplace. And he loved the bright colors from that. Okay, so remember, every time I talk to you guys about taking white from the outside, I kind of broke my rule. I took from the middle, and look, I got some blue in there, and it turned my yellow into green. So I'm just going to try to make another color similar to that over here. Not the end of the world. I could probably put that into the painting, and it would still look really cool. But I want to make sure I don't have any green stars in the sky. For today, anyway. Okay, so we did our second layer. And actually, since we have this light yellow, take your light yellow and put some dashes in your moon, following the curve of the moon, just like that. Okay. Oh, and you can put some in here too. They won't stand out too much, but we're going to build up those layers. Okay. Next thing, guess what? We're going to take even more white, mix it into that lighter yellow there. So it's almost white. It's like a very pastel light yellow. And go ahead and add some of these in, just like so. Following your curves. Now, if your curves are getting a little bit lost, don't worry. It's coming together, and you're not supposed to see exact true lines. You're just supposed to see a lot of movement in a painting. And I don't know about yours, but mine looks like it's moving like crazy. All these little dashes and dots. If also, I just noticed I've been using this brush the whole time. If you wanted to switch and do a different brush, like use your fine point brush, or if you only have one other brush, that is okay too. You can totally use whatever brush you want. This is the brush that I feel most comfortable with. So this is the one that I like to use. Okay. Last step, we're going to take some white, and it will be pretty much just white for some dashes. So you can start in the moon, like so. You can put some on here. Here we go. And you can put a few in here. The last thing we have to do is add little dots for stars. And I'm not putting too much white in there. I like how mine is looking right now, so I'm actually not going to fill it up too much. There we go. Okay. So the next step, you don't actually have to wash your brush. You can just take whatever little bit of yellow you have left, mix it with whatever's in on your brush with the white. So I have this light yellow. And in the center of any kind of pockets that I've made, so I have a swirl here, one there, one there, one there, one there, I'm going to add these little dots or little circles, just like so. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Stars, you know, aren't always perfect at all. They're just a little tiny circle to make it look like something is glowing in the center. And it actually adds more movement to your painting because it looks like something is circling around a center, right? So I didn't wash my brush yet, and that's good. Take a little bit of white, kind of dot it in the center of that, little dab, little dot. And your painting is done. Yeah. So there we go. We have our very own Starry Night painting, inspired by Vincent Van Gogh, of course. And it was a lot of exploration of dots and dashes and swirls. So thanks for watching. Of course, I'd love to see your artwork. So if you have pictures of it, please share them in the comments or on our Facebook page, which is at NOTLLibrary, so the @ NOTLLibrary. We'd love to see them. And of course, if you have any feedback or comments or suggestions, or you want to know more about Van Gogh, please let me know. Ooh, accidental rhyming. Okay, thank you again. This was Kasia Dupuis from the NOTLLibrary, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining me.